Okay. 6 p.m., February 1st, 2022. I call to order this Oconee County Council meeting. As a reminder, the public has two times they can speak in council meeting. The first is public comments, and the second is public hearing, if there's one scheduled. Other than those two times, the public should remain silent during the council meeting. Anyone making a disturbance during the meeting will be asked to leave council chambers for the remainder of the meeting. Also, as a reminder, please ensure that you follow the county's legal prohibition against engaging in partisan political activity, including speech, during this meeting. This meeting is not called for that activity, and such activity is prohibited by law. Moment of silence, please. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Oh, Father, thank you for this day that you've made. Help us to rejoice, to be glad in it, to be appreciative of all of your gifts and the opportunities you give us. For this opportunity tonight to gather together to do business, and I pray that we do good business, consistent with your will, that would be loving, benefiting our neighbor, and that we'd put others' interest ahead of our own, that we'd operate out of selflessness and kindness. I pray in your name. Amen.
Mr. Hart, will you lead us to the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 18th meeting?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Mr. Root?
I don't really have any comments pertaining exactly to the meeting. I just wanted to note that we got all of the notices out to the areas that were affected or potentially affected by the redistricting. And I just wanted to thank the various departments that helped me get them out. We did it in-house, and there was a lot. It ended up being 3,000 mailings, and the folks in delinquent tax, assessor's office, of course, GIS, voter and registration and elections, finance, they all chipped in and got it done. And I'm just appreciative of all those folks.
So that's moving West Union from District 1 to District 2 and not moving Tomasi, and moving part of District 5 to District 4, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Ms. Brock?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman and council, good evening. On your desk is an email I received this afternoon related to budget ordinance revision 2022-04. While this is not included in this evening's reading, which is the second reading of the budget amendment requested previously, I just want to make a notation to council and to the public that the budget amendment will need to be altered by $150,000 for an emergency repair to a piece of equipment at the rock quarry. This is a haul truck that we use to take the big rocks to the plant, and we're currently working in the bottom of the pit, and this truck is vital to our continued operations. Obviously, it's the third reading at the next meeting, and we typically do not like to make changes to any of our budget documents in between second and third reading as an unwritten rule. But this extenuating circumstance does grant grounds for this request from the quarry. And once we get to the reading of that ordinance, that second reading, this is 2204, I would like for there to be an amendment or a consideration for us to make this amendment going into third reading.
Public comment session. The public's reminded to only speak for 4 minutes. When the 3 minutes is gone by, you'll have a yellow card. In 4 minutes, and your time's up, there'll be a red card. Mr. Mickey Haney.
Hi, my name's Mickey Haney. I'm here on behalf of the Oconee County Conservative Group, and we're going to try doing this every year. We're going to award the elected council members an award for their adherence to the conservative values that us in Oconee County so love. We have selected these individuals according to their voting history. Have they voted for limited government and protection of the citizens' rights here in Oconee County? We also look at how they interact with the public. Have they gone above and beyond to fill their civil servant role? The individuals that we selected have done that. They have been key players in ensuring that the public has understood what's going on and to take time out to answer the public's questions. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to present these awards. I look forward to the work that y'all have, or that y'all going to continue to do, and I greatly appreciate the work you have done. The Defender of Freedom Award has a quote on it that I think pertains to these individuals, and it's a Thomas Paine. Actually, it's a Thomas Paine writing. It's a snippet out of it. It says, "We fight not to enslave, but to set the county free, and to make room upon the earth for honest men to live in." I would like to present this award to Mr. James Glenn Hart for his outstanding service. I know we can't approach the bench. And to Mr. Matthew Durham. I greatly appreciate all y'all have done to uphold the conservative values that we so love here in this county. And thank you all. If someone would, thank you.
Mr. Frankie Pearson.
I'm here speaking for myself and no one else. I just noticed y'all are going to be spending $285,740 on a grant for a survey, design, and permitting for a greenway project. Why are we spending this money? We have trails, hiking trails, all kind of things around this county. We could spend that money on these dilapidated roads that we have in this county, rather than spending it on a trail for people to walk on. If they want to walk, go up in the mountains and walk, where we used to when I was growing up. Or we got internet problems in this county. The county's already spent all kind of money on the internet, but it's not helped anybody except the schools, the fire departments, the county buildings. It's not helped hardly any citizens in this county where it was supposed to have helped. But yet y'all gonna blow another $285,000. I mean, I understand that you're gonna get some of it back and this and that, but you got other projects you could be spending money on rather than spending it on greenways. Thank you.
Mr. Mike Smith.
My name is Mike Smith, and I'm coming before you tonight as a private citizen, not representing any organization or any group. I want to speak in support of the funding for the Regional Greenway Trail proposal you have before you tonight. About a year ago, I came before you asking for a similar greenway effort before last year's budget discussion. Before that, there was a meeting at the Blue Ridge Community Center. The subject was a greenway system, and it was very well attended with over 150 attendees. Glenn, you were there. You saw how many people were very enthusiastic about it. Their theme was the influence such a trail has in bringing them communities together and the positive economic impact it would have on these areas. While this may seem like a lot of money, it is an investment in the future generations for the county and for the region. Now let me review some of the benefits for the county that a well-designed greenway system can provide. It'll increase the property values in the greenway area. It'll increase support of small businesses along the greenway system and likely encourage others to develop businesses. It'll connect these communities that benefit all generations at different stages in their life. It's a safe means of traveling for citizens that may not have other means to travel to facilities that they need or to visit other family members. It's safe for children's active lifestyle, whether or not it's chasing a frisbee, kicking a soccer ball, or learning how to ride a bicycle. There is no vehicular traffic. Obvious tourism attraction. A well-designed system is a huge attraction to the area that supports tourism, a very active industry in this county. It's a year-round usable venue, and there are obvious health benefits in walking, running, and cycling safely. Additionally, this funding can be tied to the comprehensive plan. Within the top 10 comments received from the citizens, one was simply, what is there to do in the area? And another was, how do we bring the communities closer together? Let's plan ahead for the county and for the region by funding this proposal. Thank you.
Ted Besterfield. Did I say your own name wrong?
I don't know if he said Bisterfeld, but he meant to.
Besterfield, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Ted Bisterfeld. I'm here representing myself and my wife. I'm a strong advocate for the Greenway. I think it's a wise expenditure of money that you're proposing to consider tonight. I think you should look at it as a linear park, not just a park that young people can use, but a park for everybody. I think we've got a long way to go to catch up to Pickens and Greenville, and all you have to do is see what the Doodle Trail is like and what the Swamp Rabbit Trail is like. A key point when you look at future funding is to look for transportation utility. Federal Highway Administration in the past has set aside money for such alternative transportation uses. And I think that's a key, and look at the set priorities based on transportation utility. One such one would be Seneca to Clemson. That's kind of an obvious one. I also recommend that Norfolk Southern Railway become a part of the planning process. I think they're going to be a key component in this. I've heard that they can be difficult to work with, but I think they're going to be an important component of this. So again, I support it greatly. I know a lot of other people do, and I hope you proceed with funding. Thank you.
Emily Hitchcock.
I'm Emily Hitchcock, and I'm here to support the Greenway project. The previous speakers in support of it have been very eloquent, but I would like to just mention that from my personal experience, both in having been involved with the development of a Greenway and having traveled around the country, that it has benefits for two people, both the local people who will use it daily. It will bring families together. One of my favorite recollections from working with the development of a Greenway was a gentleman who was quite opposed because his property was going to be close to it. I talked to him a year after it was there, and he loved it because his grandchildren came to visit him so that they could use the Greenway, and he got to see him so much more. And I have seen personally that it can really increase intergenerational communication and contacts within families. The second thing that I have observed is that it is an attraction that new businesses will note if they're thinking about locating to the county. They're not going to come here just because we have a Greenway, and we all know that. However, they are going to be thinking about what is the quality of life for their employees, and having a Greenway that connects and makes walking a vital part of the county and of the towns within the county is always something that is attractive to the employees of these companies. Thank you for listening.
Moving on to second reading of the following ordinance.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Mr. Andrew Smith would like to also
Okay.
speak at public comment. I think we need a moment, please.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Yes, sir, you're welcome.
Evening, Councilman. I wanted to speak as well in favor of the Greenway grant. I grew up in a place where there wasn't any public land, and, folks didn't have the ability to go out and enjoy the beauty of nature. I'm a believer in playing your strengths and working on your weaknesses. Our natural environment in Oconee County is one of our strengths, and I think we really need to play that. I think it's a strong economic asset for the county, as well as good for the health of its residents, the social equality of its citizens, everybody can use it, and for our spiritual welfare. I think our weaknesses are, like Mr. Pierce said, our roads, our crime-ridden neighborhoods, the dilapidated homes and neighborhoods that we have in the county, our jobless folks, our poor, our homeless. But this is something that we've got, that not everybody's got, and that will only benefit by supporting it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now the second reading of the following ordinance.
We're not having councilmember comment?
Oh, excuse me. Yes, sir. Councilmember comments. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Haney, I appreciate the plan. It's really not necessary, but I do appreciate it. Mr. Pearson, first I want to say congratulations on the chairmanship. And as far as all the speakers who spoke on the Greenway, I'll save my comments until we get to the portion of the meeting where we discuss it. And just Mr. Andrew Smith, if you could, I know we communicate email. I wanted to call you, and I didn't have your number in my phone. So can you please email me your phone number? Because I want to give you.
my phone number right now.
Okay, that's perfect.
It's 864-873-0383.
873-0383. Thank you.
Yeah, you can walk right down to my house.
I know, yeah, I know. That's a long walk for me. That's it.
Any other comments?
Right here.
Yes, sir.
The conservative group, I'm very humbled by this. All I've done is tried to vote common sense and vote my conscience and try to use a little example that's given in the Bible. So, like Mr. Durham, I was only doing what I thought was right. Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, now we'll go to second reading of the following ordinance. Ordinance 2022-04, an ordinance to amend ordinance 2021-01, the budget for Oconee County, which provides for the levy of taxes for ordinary county purposes, for the Tri-County Technical College Special Revenue Fund, for the Emergency Services Protection Special Revenue Fund, for the Road Maintenance Special Revenue Fund, for the Bridge and Culvert Capital Project Fund, for the Economic Development Capital Project Fund, for the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Capital Projects Fund, for the Debt Service Fund, for the Victim Service Special Revenue Funds, for the Capital Vehicle Equipment Fund, and all in Oconee County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
Move. Second.
Is there any discussion about amendment?
Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment to include the $150,000 for the catastrophic engine failure of the truck 80014.
Second.
Any-
Not to exceed 150, sorry.
Any-
And 7%, sorry, look at my notes, 7% contingency for all unforeseen items that may arise during this process.
Mr. King, you second that?
Second. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Any discussion on the amendment? If not, all in favor of the amendment? Aye. Okay, so we've got an amended motion. Any discussion on the amended motion?
This is back to the original. I just wanted to ask Ms. Brock about, I spoke with Ms. Brock today asking about the cremation fee, and she called me back when I have a signal, and the voicemail just came through as I walked in the door. Could you explain that to me?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Durham, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, Council. Mr. Durham did call and said he had received several questions from citizens regarding the cremation piece. I spoke with the coroner via telephone today. He was unable to be here this evening. The fee of $30 per cremation is a charge the coroner wishes to institute for the 626 cremation permits issued in 2021 and 520 plus or minus in the year of 2020. Cremation permits are processed through the funeral homes if funeral homes are utilized for this service, and if not, they are done directly with the coroner's office. I would like to make a clarification. I believe I said on the record at the previous meeting that these permits were DHEC permits. I was mistaken. They are not DHEC permits. They are a regulatory required permit that coroners are charged with through a state statute.
So the coroner is charged this fee through a state statute?
No, sir. The coroner is responsible for the issuance of cremation permits.
Okay.
Because the number of permits for cremation services has increased over the years, the recoupment of the cost that it costs the coroner's office to process these permits, to create the permit, to file the permit, to distribute the permit, and to permanently save the permit is a cost incurred through the coroner's office.
Okay. So my comment is, it's all relatively new information, so I'll vote yes. But I'm gonna reach out to Mr. Addis and I'll spend some more time with Ms. Brock. If I deem necessary, I'll make a motion for a change at the next reading.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, public comment session regarding redistricting 2020. We've got two people that signed up. Can we put the map up?
Yes, sir. Just
Here-
as a note to the audience as well, there's a large map on the board in the back. I'd be happy to pull that forward if anyone, or if anyone needs a paper copy. They're regular letter-size copies on the back table.
Here again, we'll move in West Union from District 1 to District 2, the part that wasn't already in District 2, and we're moving part of District 5 into District 4. Is it?
Mainly the Fox Hill, Wood Hills, and the majority of that.
I don't know if it shows up here, but it's this crosshatch area. This would have been purple in District 5, and they'll be moved if it's approved into District 4. Likewise, this crosshatch area was yellow in District 1, and if approved, it'll move into District 2. And you'll find it approved.
Okay, public comments will be limited to 4 minutes. Here again, I'll hold up a 3 minute, when 3 minutes is up, and I'll hold up a red sign when 4 minutes is up. Lynn Martin.
Good evening. I'm Lynn Martin. I'm a resident of Tomasi. And I only have a couple of points to make. One is something so important as redistricting. I had to hear it on WGOG News. I would think communication is the main point I want to make here. How is this going to be communicated to the residents that it affected? And how could they be informed, more informed of what's going on so that they could have a voice and opinion? Is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? So communication is my main point there. I think sometimes your feet need to hit the ground and go talk to the people that this would affect and hold a town meeting, put up flyers. So I thank WGOG for communicating this in the news, and that's how I knew about it. And the other thing, the other point I want to make is I think Ms. Shipley spoke last week, or the last meeting, and I just want to thank her and her proposition to move West Union. I would not speak for West Union whatsoever, but that seemed to be a good proposition to reunite an area that had been divided. That's all. Thank you.
Eddie Martin?
Eddie Martin, Tomasi resident. I know that at this point, the movement of Tomasi has been taken off the table, but if it can be taken off, it can be put back. So I would like to make comments that probably should have been made last week, but I wasn't here. So I'm going to make those as they stand now. And my opinion that Tomasi should remain part of District 1. Tomasi and Salem have a long geographical philosophical relationship. As stated in the first reading of this ordinance, community should be considered when trying to create fair districting. My experience has been such that concerns of residents in Tomasi more resemble the concerns that the traditional Salem areas have. Removing Tomasi from District 1 will be an uprooting of tradition, a long-standing tradition where neighbors have mostly agreed what is best for them. This uprooting, I'm sure, was felt by the original West Union residents when they were moved out of District 2. The most simple solution, as is put forward at this point in time, is to return the West Union area back to District 2, as it solves the problem of leveraging the numbers of one person, one vote, and doesn't move near the landmass that would be moved by changing Tomasi. This problem comes about every time the census is brought about. So looking into the future, there might need to be considerations of making the district smaller in order to further the one person, one vote idea, while also allowing the areas to further represent a truer constituent representation. The possibility of going to 7 or 9 districts might concentrate constituents in their geographical and philosophical ideals and truly allow a one person, one vote where all can be represented fairly.
Mr. Rook, can you go back over the communications that we sent out last week?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Martin, this will be the 5th meeting that we've had public comment on the redistricting process, and we had the folks from Revenue and Fiscal Affairs involved in the 2nd meeting. An individual mailing was sent to every residence within the crosshatched areas. And essentially in duplicate, if there's a residence with an owner with a different address, another mailing was sent to them that included this map and an explanatory letter. So everyone received that letter in those areas. It was sent out last week. Obviously, we're having a second time for public comment. Today, we'll have a public hearing on the 15th, and then we'll have 3rd reading and another public hearing on the 1st of March.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ordinance 2022-05, an ordinance to adopt a redistricting plan for Coney County, South Carolina, and other matters related thereto. A motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I just want to address, so, yes, Ms. Martin, as he said, we made a motion and vote to send it out to the people it affected, and there was, prior to last meeting, was up, different suggestions was on the table, and part of Tomasi was in that. So after that vote, after it came down to this proposal, then the mailings went to these areas. And Mr. Martin, you're right, Tomasi, Salem, you don't hear, we talk about communities like mine, you usually hear Tomasi, Salem, it's kind of like peanut butter and jelly, it just goes together. That's all.
Any other comments?
Yes, I would like a note, just so we continually talk about the reason for redistricting. Is not a council decision. It comes through the census, because I've gotten probably 2 or 3, and we've had some public comment. Well, whose idea was this? This is something that, with growth in specific areas, we want to make sure to keep the voting numbers the same, so one area is not heavier than the other outside of the percentage that allow. And I think council's done a good job of coming up with plans and talking civilly on it and understanding what those communities need, and appreciate those comments. Even, you feel like you're late, you're not late. You're right in the time period that you need to be. So we continually have done a lot of things on here. Had more public comment than I see going on, and our times for public comment than I see going on in other counties around us. And so I appreciate the chairman continuing to put that on there to allow as much public input as we have with the redistricting. So it's not something that we came up with as council. This is something through the census and making sure that the voting numbers stay the same rather than, somebody's district being heavier than mine, so.
Any other comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance 2022-06, an ordinance approving the First Amendment to the Declaration of Covenants, conditions, and restrictions, and easements for the Coney Industry and Technology Park, FKA, the Echo Hills Business and Industrial Park, First Amendment to the Declaration, approving, authorizing the execution and recordation of the First Amendment to the Declaration and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
First reading of the following ordinance. Ordinance 2022-07, an ordinance to appropriate and authorize the expenditure of a portion of local Corona fiscal recovery funding under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA, for the purposes of establishing premium pay to eligible Coney County employees and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
What about the emergency services volunteers, the rescue squad and the firefighters?
There'll be a separate request allocation for those. The hours calculated for the volunteers at the time of the request to create the ordinance
Okay,
had not been completed yet, and I didn't have a round number.
okay.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, discussion regarding action items. Airport engineering consultant, Department Airport. FAA regulations state that this award shall be for a 5-year period. The staff's recommendation that council approve the award of RFP 21-08 for professional services, Airport engineering consultant, Phase 2, to W.K. Dixon and Company, Inc. of Columbia, South Carolina, for a 5-year term for services as needed. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I was the one that made the motion to kind of delay this till there to give some opportunity. When it kind of came on the agenda a little later in the game, I did not have enough time to research that, and I like to review the study and everything that's done through procurement, and also look at past performances, change orders, and things like that versus those that apply for this. And at this time, I do feel like it is, I will vote in favor of this based on everything that I've seen come across. I appreciate all those that are involved in it, and I was not aware of everything that went involved in this one till after the last meeting, so I do appreciate that council gave us the time to review that.
Any other comments? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Title, Self-Contained Breathing Apparatus, SCBA's, Department, Emergency Services, amount $1,250,397.20. It's staff's recommendation that council approve the award of SCBA's to All Source Enterprises LLC, doing business as Safe Industries of Easley, South Carolina, in the amount of $1,250,397.20. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
May I please, Mr. Chairman, just say
Yes.
one thing
Yes, ma'am.
about that specific matter that was on in the item summary that we failed to highlight and applaud publicly, that we were awarded $998,636 in grant funding for the Assistance to Firefighters grant for these particular air packs and pieces of equipment. And just kudos to the emergency services team and our grants administration team for going forward and getting almost $1 million for air pack replacement for Oconee County's 17 member stations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you all so much.
We've already passed that one, so, right, yep. Okay. Request for council approval to commit matching funds not to exceed $300,000 toward the application for the fiscal year 2021 American Rescue Plan Act Travel, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation Economic Development Administration, EDA, grant for survey, design, and permitting of a regional greenway trail system. Staff's recommendation that council approve the commitment of matching funds not to exceed $300,000 toward the application for the fiscal year 2021 American Rescue Plan Act Travel, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation Economic Development Administration, EDA grant. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
According to this map, if my humble body would let me, I could take a bicycle and ride to all these places now. So, what are we paying for? It says surveying and, planning. I mean, how much is this gonna cost after we do this surveying and planning? How much a mile? Is it somewhere in the neighborhood of, $800,000 a mile to do this, or is it more?
Ms. Brock, do you wish to
May I
speak?
address that, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hart, that's an excellent question. You know, everybody says highway is $1 million a mile, sewer is $1.5 million a mile, and trails are about $700,000 a mile. Those rounded costs per mile are pre-engineering costs, pre-surveying costs, pre-permitting costs. So the $300,000 request this evening is 20% match for a larger grant, which is through the, as Mr. Elliott read in the agenda item summary entitled, through the American Rescue Plan Act for Travel, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation for the Coronavirus Recovery Funds. This is an EDA grant, specific to the cost per mile for construction outside of the engineering, permitting, design, and survey. I don't have a solid number per mile because each mile may change depending on the topo of that specific mile. But typically, you can say somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 per mile, or I'm sorry, $1 million a mile, $1.5 million a mile, and $700,000 per mile. But if we're taking a portion of that permitting, design, construction, of course, that 700 would come down. And as you said, and this is just the preliminary proposed route. That route may change over any time. So this route is not in stone, but there may be some areas where if you look at two different options for routing, if the topo for one was not conducive or was in worse condition as far as drops, or there would be a water source or a bridge that would have to be constructed, an alternative route may be identified, which would cost much less per mile.
But anyway, you're telling me this could cost $15.7 million.
For the
Possibly.
county's portion, probably not. No, those numbers I gave you are outside of the request that we're making. So the numbers I gave you per mile, and those are ballpark figures that most people use per mile, or most governments use per mile with similar topo. What you would remove from that 700,000 per mile is any portion of permitting, design, and path identification plan. It's a PIP. I had to take a second to figure out what that acronym was.
Well, according to this map, there's two bridges there.
Yes,
Are we
sir.
gonna build onto the side, or are they gonna hang baskets to ride across?
So this is a preliminary proposed route. I wish I had those answers for you. I'd love to bring my crystal ball to work, but I don't have it today for this. So this is just for the design, engineering, and preparation for a grant process. This is not a finalized map, and this is not a finalized route.
So, Ms. Brock, so the grant is, overall grant is for Pendleton, City of Clemson, Clemson University, and Oconee?
In Oconee County, yes, sir. So this is a multi-agency grant.
So how much, if we got awarded the grant, how much would be awarded?
The
To
total
Oconee-
cost?
To Oconee County?
What's our total award? I thought it was like 1.7. No, 1.7 is the cost, 1.4 would be the award amount.
Okay.
And of course, this is a backbone. When you're looking at trails and grants, it's, and I'm gonna bring up something Mr. Pearson said, if he's still here. So, with the backbone of the broadband, you have to start building somewhere. You have to have some form of means, there being a spine or backbone, to start building the smaller trails. This grant request is not the allocation of funds, it is the commitment and identification of funds in the event that Oconee County is awarded the grant in the partnership with the other agencies.
So we're not gonna spend this money unless we get the grant. Is that
Right.
correct?
Correct. So any requests for actually expendituring the money, expending the money out for the purchases mentioned here, would still come back to council for distribution and approval.
Any other?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So, if you get the grant, we're gonna spend $300,000 to have $1.5 million grant to study and to plan putting a trail in that's gonna cost millions of dollars up front and then untold to maintain afterwards. I agree with Mr. Frankie that we have plenty more priorities we should be focusing on. We budgeted, in the budget, $80,000, I may be off, but it's around $80,000
75, yes, sir.
for a study for Greenway, which I opposed. But, we have budgets, but then when come time for it, now it's at $300,000 to study. So, to then later spend millions, or maybe spend millions, or we may not spend a dime, just throw $300,000 away to get a matching grant.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this money would come from economic development, correct?
So the funding for this source has been identified through the Economic Development Capital Projects Fund. At this time, the fund balance in the Economic Development Capital Projects Fund is roughly $3 million. So this would equal 10% of that fund balance.
Thank you.
And Mr. Durham, if you don't mind me addressing the budget, this grant opportunity was not announced at the time we created the budget. We did allocate $75,000 for a feasibility study. As you all know, Mr. Coley, our planning director who is here this evening, did not start until a month and a half now. And he has frankly hit the ground running. We have not had adequate time to conduct the feasibility portion, but knowing that the interagency grant was on the table with a deadline looming, without the feasibility study being ready to process, we brought the grant request to you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And so the way I read it, if the grant was awarded and you move forward with this Greenway project, I read it, there'll be a leadership team, but fundamentally, the city of Clemson will be leading the charge or in control.
The city of Clemson has agreed to be the primary applicant, yes, sir.
So we got 15 miles in Oconee County. How many's in Pickens and Anderson County?
I'm not sure how many are in Anderson. James, can you?
There's 47 total miles in the application. Clemson University and Clemson both have around 17. We have 15, and then there's about a mile and a piece in Pendleton.
Did you understand that?
Yes.
Well, I've received a complaint from the rear part of the room earlier that our sound was not carrying very well. I want to make sure we're being verbal and loud.
Any other? Yes, sir.
We've got a couple of options. We can always sit around and do nothing. And if you look at communities that do absolutely nothing, they start dying. To attract employees, to attract, younger families continuing to move here. If you look at the aging population, things like this attract families that want to live here. The majority of this happens to be in the Seneca and District 5. If District 5 doesn't want it, we can move it down to District 4. Unfortunately, I don't connect to Clemson, which is the huge attractant to new population growth. If you look at the census map on what we're seeing on the growth-wise in that area, District 5 But in going to a lot of the meetings around the area, going to the comprehensive plan that we are required by state law, so before anybody starts throwing out things, one of the number one things that was brought up was these greenway plans, Swamp Rabbit, Travelers Rest, and it's interesting when communities, first off, didn't decide they wanted to be part of the trail plans, then they came screaming back a couple of years later. Because of the success that it was bringing to those areas, not just for those that are coming out of town, but those that actually live in the area. And that's one of the things that I think we are continually doing, is making great investments to recreation around here that doesn't cost an arm and a leg to do. So the things with this, these are expensive plans, and yes, I guess you can ride a bike through the middle of some of these are wooded areas, but can you do it safely? Can you do it, because as we continually grow, the health of America needs to change. And that's why, to me, I'm seeing so much pocket, when you go down to the Swamp Rabbit Trail, you see the huge growth in those areas, from families to individuals that travel there just to ride their bike on a safe area, so it's not on the side of the road. Or if it's a road, it's an extended area on there. So, again, I've got a lot of support from this, from people. A lot of, actually none of it's in my district, because the connection actually starts out in the Clemson area. It will continually grow back toward my area, which is what the reason why I'm in favor of it. Again, we don't have to do anything. We can let it go the other way, as it will, and sit back and then try to jump in 10 years later down the road, and $300,000 cost us $3 million. So it will continue to grow. But based on, from serving on the Appalachian Council of Governments Board, I see the amount of money and grants that's being proposed exactly for these things right here. Because they do understand that communities are really demanding this, honestly, because they're moving into places like this. And they're going to, your student housing is going to happen anyway, but the whole point of this is, the one thing that we're lacking in economic development is employees. We've been very blessed with a low unemployment, but we don't have enough. If somebody comes in and wants to build a plant and need 1,000 workers, we don't have 1,000 workers. So that's where my focus is how do we grow our employment base? How do we replace the aging population? And how do we, number one, take care of the aging population? And that's giving them opportunities that is a safe environment for them to recreate in. And to me, I believe this is. And if you look at the areas that this is running through, these are easily accessible areas. I'm in favor of it, period. So, as in, how to pay for it, could be 15, could be 20, could be 30 million. And the great thing about it is, again, the state's throwing a lot of money and the federal government's throwing a lot of money, because recreation and health should be the forefront of a lot of things that we do. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have been on council now going on, 8 years. And this is something that I have seen be successful, not only in other parts of the country, but throughout our state. There's a study that was done, and I can get a copy of this for anybody that wants it. It's called Stronger Economies Through Active Communities, the Economic Impact of Walkable, Bikeable Communities in South Carolina. We are not plowing new ground here. This is an investment that will pay dividends from an economic development standpoint. Not only, of course, the health outcomes are increased, cheaper access to safe exercise. There's a lot of benefits, but Beaufort has the Spanish Moss Trail. The Charleston area has the Battery to Beach route. Columbia has the Main Street revitalization. Easley and Pickens have the Doodle Trail. Florence has their downtown revitalization and trail improvements. Greenville and Travelers Rest, of course, have probably the most famous one, the Swamp Rabbit Trail. Hartsville has done some work. Rock Hill has an outdoor center and Riverwalk. Spartanburg has done downtown improvements and bicycle shares. And Walterboro done an I-95 connector loop. And they're great swamp sanctuary. And this report is 6 years old now. I'm sure there's other communities that are success stories in here in South Carolina. Locally, I think this is a little timeline that staff had prepared back in 2019 when we had a meeting out at Blue Ridge Electric Cooperative. I think it was in October of that year, and it was regarding a greenway in Oconee County. And the first mention of it that we could find in 2003 was a recreation master plan that recommended that Oconee County consider developing additional trails near municipalities to link the urban cores of Seneca, Walhalla, and Westminster through the creation of bike lanes and other appropriate features. 2008, there was a Oconee by Choice 2028 initiative, and by 2028, the folks involved with that said that we should plan to enhance recreational activities for everyone, provide handicap accessibility, build bike and pedestrian-friendly communities. 2010, the county planned to develop standards that encourage developers to be pedestrian-friendly. In 2010, there was a tourism action plan completed by Clemson University Parks, Recreation, Tourism Management. Dr. Brookover, he recommended Oconee County develop a greenway system to tie municipalities together. 2015, Destination Oconee Plan. There's a recommendation to develop a plan for improving public access and experiences at natural attractions and provide a variety of transportation options to ensure connectivity. 2019, during the comprehensive planning process, which is required by state law, there were numerous recommendations and requests from the public who attended those meetings, who chose to attend those meetings, to provide and encourage pedestrian connectivity between existing and planned recreation areas, to develop standards to encourage developers to be pedestrian friendly, and to seek funding opportunities to create safe greenways for pedestrians and cyclists. In 2020, we adopted the comprehensive plan, and there is a greenway development plan portion of that, strategy 7.3.1.1. Partner with public and private entities to develop a countywide greenway system that will offer opportunities for nature-based recreation in areas where few currently exist, and to connect existing parks to enable safe cycling routes. That doesn't mean you can only use a bicycle on it. You can walk on it. You can ride a wheelchair on it. You can ride a scooter on it. You can rollerblade on it. You can skateboard on it. Strategy 9.3.2.1, provide and encourage pedestrian and bicycle connectivity between existing and planned residential, parks and recreation areas, trails, public facilities, and commercial and industrial uses that will enable alternative transportation opportunities. Strategy 9.3.2.3, seek funding opportunities to create nature trails, sidewalks, bicycle lanes, and other facilities designed to make communities more walkable, reduce vehicular traffic, and improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists. And then finally, strategy 10.1.2.9, expand bicycle and pedestrian routes to allow for greater use of alternative forms of transportation and to promote ecotourism opportunities. We talk a lot about traffic in Clemson, and if the only safe way to get from your apartment to campus or your house to a job is to hop in a car, there's just going to continue to be more congestion here. This area is going to continue to grow over the next few decades, I expect, and the more opportunities to take cars off the road is good. The more opportunities for people to exercise safely and move around our community safely is good. And I also think that the economic development aspects of it, speaks for itself. We're not breaking the mold here. We're following in the footsteps of many successful community initiatives for these greenways in South Carolina. I think that, yes, it is a substantial amount of money. I recognize that. In speaking with Mr. Coley, our planning director, he said it is almost unheard of to have a funding opportunity like this for planning, survey, design, and permitting. Usually, there's a litany of funding opportunities for construction, but it's got to be shovel-ready. And so we have the opportunity with this probably once-in-a-generation type of grant, working with regional partners that are, Clemson University is a huge economic driver of our area, and I think it's good the more connectivity we have to the university. But we have the opportunity to work together in a large grant to get a lot of the footwork done that may never come around again. We invest 20 cents, we get $1 back. And so I think once hopefully we get the grant, there's no guarantees on that, but if we do, then we'll have the opportunity to begin to develop this. This is a long-term project. I doubt, if we do a countywide Greenway, I don't know that anybody in this room will be alive when it's complete, but it's something to leave behind for the future. And I do agree with Mr. Pearson. We have a lot of trails. I made the mistake of taking, I think I told you this, my 2-year-old boy and 2 dogs up to Yellow Branch on Saturday, and I about had to turn around and come back. I was there. I'm still hurting right now from it. There's a lot of opportunity to exercise up in the mountains, but you come down to the lowlands, in our area where I live, and not quite as safe and not as many places to do that safely. So I would just encourage council. I understand, not everybody's in favor of this, but I think the record in South Carolina for return on investment speaks for itself. And I think the community's request over the past 15 to 20 years speaks for itself. I mean, this is not the first time this is being mentioned. So I would ask for council to support it. I understand if you don't, but I believe it's something worth investing in. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yes. I would imagine we already have 15 miles of alternate vehicles that you can walk or ride a bicycle on. One of them is the Oconee Country Club. I think at Kiwi Key, Foxwood Hills, and Chickasaw Point. I think you can use alternate vehicles and walk those trails too. And they're already there. And it ain't costing a penny.
Any other discussion?
I don't think that anybody from the general public can use those, Glenn.
You can in
Legally.
Chickasaw, I guarantee you.
You can? Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Board and commission appointments. Building Codes Appeals Board, 1 at-large seat, no questionnaires on file. Arts and Historical Commission, District 3 seat, no questionnaire on file for this seat. 1 at-large seat, no questionnaire on file for this seat. Council will go into executive session for the following purpose: discussion regarding a personnel matter related to the rock quarry, roads and bridges, and solid waste departments. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
there a motion to reconvene?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Council consideration and approval of amended job descriptions and reclassification of specific positions in the rock quarry, roads and bridges, and solid waste departments. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.